Are you thinking of quitting and leaving your corporate job to start a business? If you are, pause, think and watch this video, because in this video I'm going to share some of the things you need to be thinking about before handing in your letter of resignation and leaving your corporate job to start your career. Hi guys, my name is Tukiso TK Ntebe and welcome to Money Adventures podcast. On this podcast we speak to the ordinary young African who's determined to get their personal finances right. In today's video I'm going to share 10 things that I did before leaving my corporate job to start my company. Now, what I have realized is a mistake many young professionals make is when they're deciding to leave their corporate careers, they are either very emotional, secondly, they never think things through in detail, and then the third mistake they make is they just jump out of the plane with absolutely no parachute. So I want to share 10 things that I did to help me prepare before leaving my corporate job. So here goes. The first thing I did was early on in my career, I registered my business formally. So I have a company called TK Consultancy, which provides financial wellness programs for entrepreneurs and employees to help them better manage their money, save and plan for the future. Now, obviously we provide different programs from financial coaching to group coaching to training and development so that we help people better understand finances and how they can improve their relationship with their money. So the first thing I did early on in my career, like I mentioned, was to register my business formally. And at the time, I really did not have a full plan as to what I wanted the company to do. And what I did over the years from 2015 when I registered the business, over the years what I did was to experiment and try new things while I was still in corporate. And what I did was to use my corporate salary at the time to register the business, to design the logo, design the website, to create email addresses for the company. And though the company was not trading fully at its capacity at the time, but I used my salary to sort of help me establish those things that are very small but can become very big early on. The second thing that I did was to gradually build the brand, the business brand and also my personal brand. Now you may be wondering why that was important. Building the brand was for me was helping me strategically position the company while I was still in corporate, So I wanted people to know about what the company does. I wanted people to know who the company is and what solutions and problems we can help them address. So number two was to really focus all my efforts on building and positioning the company brand and also my brand as an individual. The third thing that I did was to gradually start building a client base for the business. So what I did not want to do was to jump out of corporate and then only start building a client base. So I started working with individuals, I started working with small, medium enterprises, and then gradually approaching corporate organizations so that they can be on my client base. And of course, this took a bit of time and took a bit of work. But what I did was, sometimes I would host free workshops. Sometimes I would do free webinars. Sometimes I'll be doing free events and I would invite these targeted clients or ideal clients to attend and come to my events so that they could see what I was building, what I wanted to do, and some of the products and services we had on offer. So for me, the third thing was building a client base before jumping out of corporate. The fourth thing that I did was, now that I knew that I wanted to leave my corporate job, I started working on an actual exit plan. Exit plan was, what would I need to have in place before I left my corporate job? Now, the company was registered, the brand was established, the client base was there, though it was not as big as I would have wanted it to be. So the fourth thing from an exit plan perspective was to decide when I wanted to leave. So I gave myself 2 years before leaving my corporate job to say that on the 30th of June 2021 rather, I am going to leave my corporate job. And I made this decision 2 years prior to making that decision. Now, why was this important? The first thing is I needed to get my finances or financial position right. So it meant that I had to sit down and literally review where I was in terms of my finances. At the time, I had a personal loan, I had a credit card, I had credit card debt, I had an overdraft facility with the bank, and of course I had a home loan. So what I then started doing was, one, I paid off the credit card, and I think at the time I had around a limit or an outstanding balance of 10,000 Maluti. So what I did was to pay off the credit card first. The second debt that I tackled after that was to pay off the overdraft facility, which was, I think at the time, around 15,000 Maluti, and I used some of my savings, some of my 13th check and bonuses to accelerate and repay those very quickly. The third thing was, or the third debt that I had to clear before I left my corporate job was my personal loan, because I do not want the anxiety of having to keep up with monthly repayments. So what I did with the home loan rather is I left the home loan as it was, firstly because the outstanding amount was quite big, and then secondly the interest on the home loan was not as high as on the other facilities that I mentioned earlier on. So I left the home loan as it was, but what I did was to have a plan as to how I would continue paying my monthly mortgage installment when I left my corporate job, which I'll speak about in a bit, in a short bit. But I left the house as it was, and then after I actually left my corporate job and I had started full-time in my business, was I decided to move out of the house because, one, it's a 3-bedroom house with a double garage, and I was literally living alone in the house. So at some point I was like, why would I want to live in this big house by myself when I could actually think of moving out, getting a tenant that can help me repay the bond? And that's exactly what I did. Obviously, it was not a very easy decision because I'm very attached to my house, as it were, but I actually decided to leave the house and rent it out to a tenant. And so far so good. It's had its challenges. I will talk about those challenges in a separate video, but that's how I managed to repay or keep up with my mortgage repayments on a month-to-month basis, moving out of my house and renting it out so that I could pay the bond. The other thing that I did from a financial perspective was to gradually build my savings, because again, moving from regular stable income to business could literally become very uncomfortable because of the irregular cash flow, the uncertainty that invoices will be paid on time, which I'll also do in another video. But I literally built savings to literally help me survive should things go wrong. And I think the best thing that I did was those savings really came through, particularly in the first year of being a business owner, where invoices were not being paid on time, like I mentioned, and things were just not going according to the plan, So having those savings in place, personal finance experts will normally encourage us to have 6 to 8 months or 3 to 6 months emergency savings. But I would dare say, if you're thinking of going out of corporate to run a business, maybe 2 years of your monthly expenses could be ideal. And of course, that's a big amount. But for me, I wish I had actually built up more than 2 years worth of savings. And yes, that should not stop you from leaving your corporate job. But what I'm saying is having those savings, particularly when you are starting out in business, can literally come through, because that transition from a paycheck to no income, many months when you're starting out, can literally leave you very depressed. So that's the other thing that I did. The other thing that really came through for me was to secure a retainer contract. Now, a retainer contract is basically you working with a particular client, and they pay your retainer they pay your retainer income based on the services that you're giving them on a short term, medium term, or long term, depending on the duration of the contract. So I had a bit of a retainer contract. I think it's a 2-year contract with one of the financial services providers, where I was literally providing consultancy services to them, using my skills, knowledge, and some of my experience to help them with whatever they needed me to help me with. So why was that important for me? It was important because it still gave me that stable income, though it was not 100% what my salary used to be, but it gave me some what's the word I'm looking for? It gave me some stability, knowing that on a particular date of the month, I will receive this income so that it could literally help me keep up with my living expenses. So having a retainer contract really is another thing that you can think about, whether it's consulting, whether it's whatever skills or services that you can offer a client. I would highly suggest that you do that, because that stability can really help you get through those particularly difficult months when business is not as good as it should be. The other one, don't mind me, I keep looking at my notes just so that I don't miss out on anything that's very important. The other thing that I did before leaving my corporate job was to really invest in myself. So what I did 2 years prior to that is I enrolled for a postgraduate diploma in financial planning law, because that's what I wanted to do. Now, why was this important? It was very important for me because, one, it gives you that confidence that you have what it takes to deliver what it is that you want to do. And secondly, it gives you credibility. Because, for example, I was leaving a corporate job to build a business around financial well-being and financial planning services. So it does give you a bit of credibility. And the other thing, over and above the formal qualification, is I did a number of short courses. And why was this important? Short courses and continuous professional development. Now, why was this important, or why is this important, is, one, I spoke about credibility, is the more you know and the more you develop yourself, the more value you can contribute towards your clients, the more value you can provide your clients. And the more value you provide your clients, the more you can increase your earning potential. So that is why personal development for me is absolutely core. Whether it's a short course, whether it's listening to a podcast, whether it's a webinar that's free or paid for, whether it's attending conferences and events, it's very important for us as entrepreneurs to invest in our development. Because again, we are operating and living in such a rapidly changing world. So you do not want to be irrelevant. So investing in yourself is absolutely important. And again, I did this 2 years prior to, as part of my exit plan as well, 2 years prior to leaving corporate. But currently, I am still engaging in professional continuous development. So attending webinars, attending workshops, going to conferences, very, very important if you're going to survive in this industry. The last thing that I did before leaving corporate and post leaving corporate was doing therapy. Now, for me, therapy or going to therapy was absolutely important because the anxiety I was dealing with, because let's be honest, when you decide to leave your corporate job, it's a very big decision. So for me, when I decided that on the 30th of June 2021, I'm going to leave my corporate job, immediately after I made that decision, my anxiety levels shot off the roof. Guys, I was having sleepless nights. I was tossing and turning. I was second guessing whether that decision is the best decision. And it was really just after the COVID-19 pandemic was at its peak. People had lost their jobs, businesses were going under, and I was just like, what the hell are you thinking of doing, TK? Oh my God. So I was having a lot of panic attacks. I was having high levels of anxiety. I was really just unsure. And again, at some point, I was starting to become a bit agitated at work. I was becoming a bit disengaged at work. And going to therapy really gave me that clarity of mind and that a different perspective to say that, why am I doing what I'm doing and what do I hope to achieve? So for me, is a lot of people really think that therapy is, they underrate or underestimate the power of therapy. And even post my corporate job, I still go to therapy just to have a sounding board, speak to somebody neutral, bounce ideas, and reflect on what it is that you're doing and why you're doing it. So for me, therapy was a really important aspect of my transitioning from corporate to business. Now, like I mentioned, I'll do a separate video about the challenges of being in business and running and building your own company in a separate video. But in this video, I really just wanted to share some of the things that have worked for me, and I hope that they will work for you too as you are working through whatever decision that you're making. And again, I did not speak about when you are leaving your current employer to another employer, which is a different conversation altogether. But the other thing that I did as when I was transitioning from my corporate job to running my own business was, one, to preserve my retirement benefits. Now, obviously, many of you know how passionate I am about retirement planning and retirement savings. So the first thing that I did is, it's very tempting for you to cash out those retirement benefits and then want to use them as capital for your business. Not a bad idea, but for me, it was important for me to preserve those retirement benefits because, one, building a business requires a lot of capital, but also one day I do not want to be very stressed around my retirement savings. So what I did was to move my retirement benefits into a retirement annuity and then continue with monthly contributions like I would have had I still been employed. And for me, yes, I look at that capital sitting in my retirement annuity and I'm like, oh, I could totally use it, if you know what I mean. But for me, it was very important to preserve and build that particular thing. And as I navigate the business landscape and as the business continues to grow, I then started contributing a bit more towards my retirement annuity so that one day when I do retire from the business, which is ideal, that I do not have to worry about income. So that's another financial planning hack that I think could benefit you if you're thinking of doing that. But again, we always say personal finance is personal, so what worked for me may not necessarily work for you. So in that short video, I really hope I've given you nuggets of hope, and I hope that you have something to chew on as you are working on your personal finances. Until the next video, guys, please share this video with somebody who could benefit from this conversation, somebody who's thinking about this particular decision, and share it with them and ask them to subscribe so that we grow our community of trailblazers. But also very important is for you to leave a comment below and let me know if you have left your corporate job, how the transition has been. If you are thinking about it, what's keeping you up at night? Are you experiencing any panic attacks? Are you feeling overwhelmed with the decision that you're making? Or if you know somebody who has gone through that process, leave a comment below and let me know. And again, if you want me to do another video on the challenges, which I should do anyway, let me know what you want the next topic of the video, of this conversation, to be rather. So until the next video, guys, love, peace, and money. Give it a thumbs up, hit the notification bell, subscribe to the channel, and of course leave a comment below and share it with somebody who can benefit from the conversation. Love, peace, and money. Happy Sunday, people. Mwah.